everyone, and welcome back for episode 2 of Garage Talk. So I know that in our last episode we talked about Tom's first car, which was the red 64 Corvette that's right behind us here. And at the end of that video we did tease about going from the first Corvette to the most recent, but we live in Pittsburgh and it snows quite a bit and we have been unable to get the newest Corvette over here to the Bakerstown garage with that snow on the ground. So we're pivoting. That's the story of 2020 anyways. We're changing direction a little bit and we are going to move on to Tom's second Corvette today, which is right behind us here. So this is a 72 Corvette and I think kind of a fun juxtaposition between the 64. We're now in a new body style. The 64 being high school, it seemed fitting that there would be a new body style for the Corvette that came around for your college years. So kind of a fun little jump here to the second one. So this one, unlike the 64, you ordered new, correct?
Right. The LT1 was appealing to me, so I talked my dad into letting me order a car. I think he thought we'd probably sell it at the end of the year or something, but that didn't happen. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, and I can imagine having a dealership sort of at your disposal, if you will. That makes for a really fun, involved portion of the process in ordering a new Corvette. So tell us how you went about that. I can't imagine being, 18 years old and getting to build your dream Corvette?
17, I think, 17. At the time. But yes, so I would have been, I got it right before graduation in high school. So talked my dad and let me order it. I had the little paper books, which I have somewhere, and I went through those options and picked out what I wanted. My father said, you can't go over $6,500 window sticker. So that was a challenge because I wanted the LT1 engine and that was $470, I think. So I couldn't put power brakes on the car. That took me over the limit. So there's no power brakes on this car, power steering. I nicked it up. I put a heavy duty battery in it so that it was $6,479, I think it came in at. So no questions there. I just snuck it in. Got my leather seats too, which I wanted. No air conditioning though, which is a shame. But
well, if you go fast enough, you don't need air conditioning, right?
Yeah.
So that's perfect. So, wow, I can't believe $6,500 limit. I'm not sure what that translates to in today's dollars, but still definitely a challenge. So no power brakes, no air conditioning. What were some of your priorities or the definite must-haves? I heard you mention the LT1 was sort of your number one priority. Yeah,
the LT1 was a must-have. They didn't release it at the beginning of '72 because it wasn't passing emissions. So it looked like they weren't going to build it. And so the sales manager, my dad, told me you need to you just get the 454, which was actually less money. I think it was $255. And I did not want a 454. They were nose heavy to me. The solid lifters, the big Hawley carburetor on this thing, it made a sound that was specific. And quick car, that's what I wanted. So I said, nah, I'll wait and see what happens. So I did wait, and they did release it, I think like November of 71 for the 72. And so I got it ordered. The 6,500 limit, I still have the window sticker. It says Tom's Vet on it. Somebody wrote on there, so they knew. And it's $6,479, so I had it on the window sticker and made my limit. And the LT1 was it, though. I had to have that, and I had to forsake. I couldn't even put a stereo in the car, an FM stereo, just FM. But I figured that's okay, I could change that, so which I did, of course. But.
Yes, and you did have the 8-track player, though, in this car, right? Which you did not in the 64.
Yeah, well, the 64 was in the back behind the seat, but this one I really upgraded and I put an in-dash 8-track player, which was all the rage. I had to cut the little metal bezel, though, to do that. And years later, trying to find that metal bezel that was uncut was a challenge because I want to put it back to stock. But I had my 8-track in-dash. It was Chicago first album after Transit Authority, so I had progressed with Chicago in the cars too. 25 or 6 to 4, I remember vividly in this car blasting as I went. So yeah, that's one of the memories.
That's awesome. So then the car came in. Were you there when the car arrived, or do you have any specific memories about seeing the car for the first time? Or any of that?
That was an epic day, you know. I mean, waiting for the car to come in. I think it was built February 1st, and it came in February, maybe 2 weeks later or something. I was in high school, but we got out early. It was an odd shift that we were on. So somebody told me the car came in. I don't know how, maybe when I went home to go to work or something. So I went flying out there, and there was the car, and just couldn't wait. So the funny thing was, though, and why I did it, I don't know, but I pulled all kind of paperwork out of the car. That window sticker, there's a copy of the window sticker here, which is interesting, and a production sheet Corvette order, which is really cool because it's got in there, it has the engine number, the rear axle number, and the transmission number written on the sheet that match the car. For instance, the engine number ends in CKY, and I remember that being crayoned on the block. It's still there somewhere. So the paperwork was really cool, and for some reason I grabbed all this stuff and kept it. So pretty neat to me, and of course it documents the car pretty well too.
Yeah. So are you involved? You have the NCRS plate on the front of here as well. Having all this documentation, I mean, this is sort of a Corvette collector's dream almost, to have all of this stuff. Is there anything, tell me a little bit more about NCRS, your involvement there, and particularly how this car scores with them.
Yeah, this is NCRS is National Corvette Restorers Society, for those of you that don't know. They do judging and look at in detail all this stuff, and so I did take it to get that done. And unfortunately, a few things were changed. We did paint the car. I've got 42,000 miles on this car. I drove it, and it was really nicked up. So I couldn't live with that. We painted the bottom edges, but it didn't quite match. So actually, the blues are hard to match. Sometimes a little more purpley or something. There's different factory formulas. So we ended up just painting the whole car. But of course, then DuPont Imron was a big deal. I wanted clear coat to make it shiny. So we painted it with clear coat, which is a dock for the NCRS. They did duck because it isn't the original paint. Although I still like the clear coat on the car. I'd probably do it again. So very original, but they check everything. Your headlight bulbs, you know, all kind of stuff. And for instance, on this car, I got docked on points. The steel rally wheels have a date or stamp on them, and these are the wrong ones. And I remember why, and once again, Gary Hoffman's gonna come into the picture. He had a 72 Corvette that came in later than mine. His dad got him one. And by then I had Anson wheels, which were a hot wheel at the time, and radial white letters, which really made a difference in the car. And the old bias plies that it came with, they didn't ride great. So my wheels and tires were just sitting there, and they were Goodyears, and Gary's car came with Firestones. And you wanted Goodyears at the time. So he said, well, you just trade with me. So we traded wheels and tires because I figured I'd never use them again. Unfortunately, his date code stamps are later than mine, and they don't match. So, so I got docked for points there. The alternator on the car, they docked me because the number isn't in the alternator, and I was baffled when the judge first did that. But when I was 17, I think, or 18, I went to Ohio, broke a fan belt, and in replacing the belt, I over-tightened the alternator bolt, of course, cracked the alternator. So it is a replacement alternator. And the carpet's replaced. The oil gauge has a little tube running to it with oil for oil pressure. That burst, and it loaded the floor with oil and pretty much ruined my carpet. Although in retrospect, I should have tried to keep the carpet and clean it somehow. But I replaced the carpet, and I get docked on that.
Yeah,
so.
That's tough.
And one of the other stories, there's a scratch in the windshield that perfectly matches the windshield wiper because I was in a tremendous downpour, I think coming from Erie, PA, and got caught out with this, and the wiper blade came off, and by the time I could get stopped and do something about it, it had scratched the windshield. But it's original glass, so I figured I had to just leave it and take the point dock. But for the most part, I mean, everything else is really original.
It's a clean car, yeah, very original. And I think you created some of your own paperwork as well, so to speak. You mentioned that there's miles on this car. Obviously, miles usually coordinate to some memories, but I think you did a lot of fun track runs and things like that and kept your own records.
Yeah, well, this is kind of funny, I think, but it's a chart of, I started keeping track of how much I was spending on gas, and so I listed how many gallons I got and what the miles per gallon were, and it pretty much averages 10 because I was pretty much driving this car hard. So it's kind of funny though, the first recorded mileage is 682. At first I didn't write it down. So I've got my mileage charts back to 682 miles in this car, which is just kind of funny and a fun piece there to have. Kate did note there's an emergency gas up here.
That's my favorite, emergency gas.
3.5 gallons, so I ran it down and I didn't have enough money probably and just put 3.5 gallons in it. It cost, it looks like it cost $1 at the time, so.
You can't even get 1 gallon for that now.
Yeah, so pretty funny, but that neat piece of paper on the car that I think anyhow.
Yeah. So you were racing quite a bit then. I know there's one memory in particular, Nelson's Ledges. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your racing out there? That's
a good one. Well, yeah, we were doing autocrosses. So I have here some of the results in '74. This is Corvette Cleveland. Actually, this might be Nelson's Ledges. I'm not sure. Yeah, we're going to have to look at that. That might be from Nelson's Ledges. Anyhow, I have some sheets from autocrossing, which I was doing. Wasn't a great autocross car. They were made for little midgets and small things, and this was too big, too powerful. At the time, it was a little tough getting them through, but you had a lot of fun and made a lot of noise. So, but we went to Nelson's Ledges, I think with CCWP, Western Pennsylvania, and you got a timed lap around the course. And they released you individual. It wasn't door-to-door racing. And so again, I was 18 maybe, and took a lap, came back. The second lap, I was going to get after it. I thought I had it. And I recall really coming out of a bend and totally losing the car. I did a 360 on the track, a complete spin. Didn't go off the track. I remember seeing like a hay bale go by. And I came out pointing the way I had to go, so I just kept going and just ran it out. And it turned out my second lap was still faster than my first lap with a full 360 spin. But the third lap was a disaster because I was scared to death at that point of going off the track.
I would have been too. I can't imagine.
Do not come home with a broken Corvette.
Yeah, probably shaking when you got out.
Oh yeah, I was. My hands were shaking, and I think my sister will vow to that they were in shock with what I did. But luckily, I got away with that. But, yeah.
Well, definitely, I think that's a major lesson. Don't come home with a broken Corvette.
Yes.
But there's 42,700 miles on this car. At some point, there is likely to be some sort of oopsie, and I think you did get towed in this car once.
Yeah, yeah, never hit though, never marked it up. But yes, I came home I went to Furman University for a while, South Carolina, and which is a long ride. Finally got to take the car to Furman because I was a freshman and you weren't allowed to have a car. So I bribed a upperclassman for his parking stickers. It cost me a case of beer. I got his parking sticker and I could use the car. I just told my dad, yeah, they let us have cars now, and they never checked. But at any rate, I came home, and the shifter is a long throw Muncie, but there was an adjustment on the shifter. You could make that throw shorter, which was really nice. It's still that way today, surprisingly, but we shortened the throw on the shifter. Problem was, didn't tighten it up enough. So my buddy Lee Yeckel was riding with me. For the life of me, I don't remember how he was getting home or what we did, but he was going to Furman with me. And we made it to Breezewood, at which point it jammed into fourth gear and we couldn't get it out of fourth gear. So we got off there, made a phone call from a gas station, had to call my dad. And it was a Sunday because I had to be back at school. Nothing was open on Sunday to fix it. So he sent a tow truck with a car, and they gave me a used car, and they towed the Corvette back. Of course, I was really glad my dad didn't come in the tow truck because I think he would have killed me for doing that. But more gray hair from my dad. But so we had to go back and get it later, but once they fixed it, it was fine. It's been that way ever since. But
that's definitely a call you never want to make. I know from experience.
Yeah.
I've called you needing a tow truck. Ironically, in my first Corvette, I called you from the side of Route 8 needing a tow truck, and that's not a call you ever want to make.
Right.
So I can feel your pain there, but everything is good here. No nicks or anything like that. No dogs taken to vets in this car.
No, a little different story than the 64, but again, we'll probably go long. This is obviously got a lot of stuff to it too. Yeah. One of the things I was just thinking about on the paperwork, here's the original inventory card that they made for the showroom, and somehow I kept that too. I don't know how I got all this stuff, but so they would type up the card of the window sticker and put it in the showroom, and then the guys, as they were selling cars, they could find the exact car and they knew the price of the car and could talk about the options and stuff. And the funny thing is, this was 72. I got out of college in 75, and by then we had a Xerox machine, which was a big deal. It was like huge in the office. And as I started to sell cars, you'd be a salesperson, a car would come in, and you would have to wait days for them to get the inventory card to the showroom. So in my view, that was inefficient. You know, I want to show this car, I don't have the inventory yet. It had the cost figure in it and everything. And they're typing these cards up, and I'd say, we need these, and there's got too many cars, we don't have time to get these done. I said, well, why don't you just take the window sticker or the invoice and stick it in that Xerox machine and Xerox it. And the entire office staff just looked at me. It's like, we no longer have to type inventory cards and put them in a Rolodex file. You can just take a book and open it up, and here is the invoices. So I saved a ton of office time. I sped the whole process up in the showroom process, and I received extreme creds with sales, my dad and everybody, of changing a process that didn't make sense. One of my few victories.
That's awesome.
That's what I think of when I see that card. So.
It's so cool how even just the smallest of details in these cars can bring back all sorts of memories. And I think that's for everyone watching as well. If you're a car owner, I think that's something that you can probably relate to, is just all of the memories that come in every inch and every mile of these cars, and sort of the reason why we keep them and collect them the way that we do. So before we sign off here, do you have any other final thoughts that you want to share with us on this car?
Well, I was saying I took it to Furman. It was like an 11-hour ride, as I recall, because major interstate wasn't open and you had to cut through Virginia. So
it's a long time in a Corvette.
Yeah, I remember leaving Thursday, I think at 3 o'clock I could leave campus, and that was my last class, and then I blew off the one on Friday. I only had one.
Nice.
And I would get home about 2 a.m., and the dog, Smokey, that threw up in the other car, he would be barking because he knew the sound of this car. Aww. And my parents knew, oh my gosh, he came home. I'd get home at 2 in the morning and then go back Sunday, which is crazy, but just to get home. So that was some. I ran it to Michigan, to Northwood. Scott rode with me many times when we bombed home for a weekend and came back. I remember racing a Pantera out of Detroit on 23. I think it was 23 we were on, but to see a Pantera on the street today. But we were racing, and this car held its own back then. It was the Cat's PJs. So, and then some of the other stuff, but I found a triptych in the car with the original, route to Michigan and how to get there, and there's different triptychs, which is really funny that they're in there too. And so a lot of memories with the car, I think. Can't think of anything else that we missed.
Yeah, and that's the best part, and sort of why out of your whole collection, in future videos, you're going to see eventually everything that we've got in here. But I'm so glad that we started out with these two in particular, because like I mentioned before, they almost do sort of bookend some very clear chapters in your life and in growing up, and sort of embody certain stages of your life.
Right.
And I think that that's kind of one of the coolest parts of these two cars, is they very clearly represent high school and getting your driver's license and then going off to college. And imagine college is sort of your first taste of freedom, and I guess getting your license are your two first tastes of freedom there as a kid, and you got that in your Corvette, which is as cool as it gets, I think.
We'd go to college with this thing packed to the roof. I took the rear window tray out so that I could put more stuff in it, because you would just load it up and travel light, of course. But
I'm thinking back to how much stuff I had in my dorm room in college, and girls have a lot more clothes for sure, but I definitely couldn't have fit even a quarter of my stuff in the
jeans and Tims,
Corvette.
you were good to go. I don't know if they were Tims then, but that was your set, a couple pair of jeans, and you didn't wash the stuff because,
it's college.
Didn't need much. Yeah, it's college. But two things I can't think about that go, the engine tune-up specifications I have for 72, but written in there is the valve lash settings for the solid lifters on this car. And I learned how to set them, but I had to set them cold. They said you got the car warm and then you had to shut it off. But a friend of my dad's used to work for him, Marvin Worsing. He owned Custom Speed Center, which if you see the garage, you'll see that sign at some point, and that was his shop. But he would tune the car for me and adjust the valves, and showed me how to adjust these valves. But he would do it hot, and it was running, and he could slide that feeler gauge in there and do it. I could never get it to go in, only once in a while. So I would always shut it off and then set it and do that. But we adjusted them quite often to make sure I was getting basically almost 7,000 RPM out of this car at the time. I would never do that today, but kind of neat. And I actually bought his sign. I don't know if I said that, and it's in the garage. So
oh yes, you did.
Yeah, so pretty cool. He taught me how to tune it. One of the trips we had in the pictures is General Motors Institute in Detroit. Before I went to college, I was checking that. I was thinking about going there, and my sister dated a guy that was there or something, and we went up for a weekend, and they were doing 8th mile drags at one of the plants, the engineers, and they snuck me in as a college guy. It has big Pi Kappa Alpha, I think, signs on the doors, and they let me race this car in the 8th mile. And these guys went over the tune and made sure it was perfect. And kids in engineering, we had a ball with the car up there doing that. I remember Michigan International Speedway. We were there to watch something, and we have pictures from that. And one of the other things for NCRS, thinking back, we should probably edit this in, but to gain a little horsepower, the first thing you did is take off all the smog equipment, and you would plug them with little pipe fittings. And when I wanted to show the car, I realized that there was no smog equipment on it, which NCRS would dock you. I thought, boy, I took it off. I wonder if I left it in Dad's garage. So turns out I'd thrown everything in a box and shoved it under his workbench, and 20 years later, it was under the workbench.
Thank goodness it was still there.
So, that's unobtainium today, but probably thousands of dollars back then. But put everything back on the car, so it's got all the original smog on it too. So
that's
which
awesome.
Is pretty cool. So the car's pretty fun, pretty correct. And,
yeah.
Yeah. great time.
That's
So,
awesome. And
yeah.
I would love if Gary, if you're watching, or Sue, if you're watching as well, I'd love to hear in the comments some of your memories with this car as well, both in swapping the wheels and taking it up and running it as well. So if either of you guys are watching, share your memories in the comments. If you are enjoying our Garage Talk videos, drop us a comment as well with some topics that you want us to cover, or if you know the collection well, maybe the car that you want us to cover next, because I don't think the next car that you added to your collection was a Corvette. Is that correct? Can you remember what the next one was?
It starts getting a little blurry there.
Maybe we'll edit that
Which
out.
one was next?
There's quite a few surrounding us. You can't
Yes.
quite see
Yeah.
from the camera.
That's going to
but-
require a little thought. I think Gary might put in the comments on the CB radios that we put in these cars and how we would race around, and you'd be able to talk to each other, which was a big deal.
That's
And,
fun. What
yeah.
was your call name on the radio?
It was LT1.
LT1.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, the handle, they called it.
Or your handle,
Yeah, we
okay.
would be on the turnpike, not Gary, but coming home, and Scott or somebody, and you'd hear LT1 called out on the turnpike, and we could talk as we went. Of course, before cell phone, huge deal.
Yeah, that would still be fun though to
Yeah,
have
it was.
those radios. So if you have a handle, drop that in the comments as well, because we like seeing all your guys' feedback, and like we always say, it's all about the memories, these cars, and that's what we enjoy hearing most from you as well. So share your memories and what you want to hear from us next, and I will include at the end here some photos of some of the documentation and memories that we've discussed as well. So thanks for sharing with us some of your thoughts and memories on this.
This is fun. I hope you like it.
Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as we are. So even if you're not, we're going to keep going. So,
We have 3 viewers.
we've got 3 viewers, 2 are sitting right here.
2 are related.
All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you for episode 3.